When we think of design, we think of interfaces and interactions. But how about a world with no user interface? Well, it sounds a little futuristic, but believe me, it's not that far away. So, please welcome Sophie Kleber.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Sophie Kleber. I work at a company called Huge. We are a design agency from Brooklyn, and I run product and innovation. This is my hashtag you can tweet, or my handle you can tweet at me while I talk, and I'm going to be talking about anticipatory design. Here's the theory that I'm working with. In 2015, technology will move off the screen and will become the invisible engine that powers the world around us. We have almost concluded the experiment of designing for screens. We have put terminals and screens everywhere. We have made them smaller and smaller. They're now that small. That experiment is over. And this is what we're working with right now. This is our reality. We have the screens. We're looking at these small worlds around us, and we're dealing with everything that comes with it, with all the social anxiety that comes with it, and all the implications of a little machine with us at all times. The next experiment is going to be moving technology off the screens, again, into the world around us. Why do I think this? We produce a massive amount of data. It takes us currently 1 day as humankind to produce as much data as we used to produce from the beginning of time until 2003. It's, I think, 5 exabyte. I don't even know what that is. So we're dealing with a massive amount of data. That's number one. Number two, in 2015, we will have 4.9 billion connected devices. That's an increase of 30%. So we have all these devices. We have all this data. And we have this, 35,000 decisions made each day. No one can handle that anymore. We're dealing with cognitive overload, we're dealing with information anxiety, and we're dealing with multitasking. So what do we have to do as designers to think about how we bring these things together? More data, more connected devices, more cognitive overload. And the answer that I'm proposing is anticipatory design. That means using algorithmic intelligence, not artificial intelligence, because we have to move on from that, algorithmic intelligence to streamline decision-making. There's certain decisions that we are making every day that we shouldn't have to make. I think this happens in 3 steps. There's three ways to streamline the decision-making. The first one is very simple. It's simplifying selection, right? That's the idea that we're all working with right now. It's smart algorithmic suggestions, pre-selected defaults, and remembering users' preferences, and then serving them back. So we're not taking away any decisions. We're just making them a little easier to make them every time. The second one is choice editing. That means actually taking away the massive amount of selections that I can make and editing that down, right? That's product and content curation. So any store that you walk in has edited the choice for you because they've already curated from all the different things that there can be down to a certain amount. That's optimizing for the most common use case, so making a user flow very simple and then only giving you the options of the less common use cases at the side, and also eliminating some of the options. Uber does a great job at that by not even asking you if you want to set your location, but they take the pickup location, the location that you're at. They're not letting you order a car from a different location at a different time. They're taking away choices. They're editing down choices and optimizing for that most common use case. And the last one is the idea of actually eliminating decisions. What are the decisions that can be adjusted without conscious human involvement? These decisions that I know with a 99% chance that you're going to make. And therefore, I don't have to ask you, and I can surprise and delight you by having already made that selection for you, taking work off your plate. So me as a designer, I think about this, and I think about what this means for the world that I'm designing. And if we have the interfaces moving off the screens, and we can actually, with the big data that we have, help people edit down or eliminate some of the choices that they have to make, what does it mean? I think the first step is going to be that interactions move into context. So they move off the screen. The screen is not that small little thing that I carry with me anymore, but the screen is in the context. This is the Rebecca Minkoff store in New York City. They are the first ones, I think, that have implemented the magic mirror. It's a mirror that you have in the dressing room, which lets you order a different size, a different color of the outfit that you want. It lets you take a picture of what you're wearing right now and compare it with a picture later. So it's a screen, essentially, but it's in context. It's taken off the little thing, and it only appears when I'm in that dressing room, when I'm in that context. This is the NavD navigation system, which utilizes your windshield as a screen. So basically, you can have contextual information projected right onto your windshield. You can also have your text message projected on it, but usefulness TBD. So again, utilizing anything that can be a screen in context and making that the screen. This is the Microsoft example. They're working with a HoloLens idea. I don't really like it because you still have to wear something, so it separates you from the world around you. But I think pretty soon this is the idea that we're going into, where everything can be a screen and everything can be a projection area with different things. So what does it mean for me as a designer? I have to really, really think about the user's context and think about it anew. I have to think about privacy. What is the user comfortable with having me, having the user be able to see, but also other people, because we're moving into context? What is the user's attention span in that context? So the question of context will become redefined when we're moving off the screen and we're moving into the environment. So that's the first one. The second one is interactions becoming more intuitive. So people talk about no UI design, and they talk about voice and these kinds of things. This is actually a user interface. A voice interface is a user interface. It's just a little bit different and a little more intuitive. This is an example of a very intuitive interface. The company is called Magic. And what you do is you basically text and ask them anything. And they text back and tell you, I can have that for you delivered in X amount of time. It's going to cost you that much. And you can say, OK, and they get it. The reason why I like this is the business model is shit. It's not going to survive because it's really just a bunch of dudes on the other side trying to connect to other services and getting that for you, whatever you're asking. But the interface is beautiful because it's text message. It's a conversation. And it's very easy. The Modo Hint is a voice interface that answers to you in your ear. So you can imagine this becoming a very integrated part of your wearable selection of your things that are, turning you into a very smart robot. And the reason why I like it is because it does respect the user's level of privacy and the user context. Because it doesn't speak out loud to you like you have to converse with a machine, but it actually becomes more part of you. And with that, really becomes a little bit more serving. This is the example I currently like the most. If we're going into the Internet of Things, Amazon geniusly invented a little button that is actually a button that you can order, and they ship to you for free, that you can reorder certain household essentials like laundry detergent or something. You can stick it wherever you are in the habit of running out of these things, and you press the button, and it automatically reorders and sends the reordered item to your home. So a genius move of moving from the screen, from this idea of, oh, I have to open the app, I have to log in, I have to find the item, and so forth, into the environment, and really shortening the decision-making process for the user. It takes a lot of decisions away. I don't have to decide which laundry detergent I order. I don't have to decide when I'm going to run out the next time. It's right there, right in this moment. And what all of this means with the Internet of Things is that the phone, our personal computer by now, is becoming the remote control to really control this environment. What does it mean as a designer? It means that I have to start thinking about the behavior that I display in the network of things. So I'm not alone anymore. The user has to deal with all of these different things. And for the interfaces or for the interactions that we're going to develop and the services that we're going to design, it's going to be very important not only to know when to speak up, but also to know when to shut up. Because our job is to make the environment of the user nicer and better. So that brings me to the last point. What happens if interactions become unnecessary? If the user doesn't have to interact with a certain service and doesn't have to tell me what they want. And we're entering very tricky territory because we need to really define, and the point is now, the moment is now, what the decisions are that I'm more than happy to give away, and what the decisions are that make me inherently human, that me as a human I never want to have taken away from a machine, the decisions that I trust a machine with, and the decisions that I don't, that I always want to keep control over. Google is in the business of figuring this out. Last year, Google bought Deepmind, which is a very sophisticated artificial intelligence company. They are not in the process of making consumer products. Google Now is their consumer-facing experiment to perfect that decision-making algorithm. Google Now displays what they think is most important to you at this time. Take a lot of decisions away, take a lot of prioritization into that context, and that is what they're trying to perfect. We all heard Nest. That's a very easy example. The reason why Nest is so easy is because it deals with the environment around us that is inherently passive. So we don't really expect to have to make a lot of decisions about the lighting, about the temperature, and these kinds of things. And it's very easy to learn because the preferences are finite. So it's possible for that environment to adjust without me as a human interacting with it. And it's very low risk because it really just is the environment. Brings us to the next connection that is being made here. This is called the Internet of Self, where you take biometric data and the quantified self and these kinds of things and combine them with the Internet of Things. The example here is called Bolt. It's a light bulb that, with this little device you measure your sleep cycle. Then the light bulb adjusts according to the best lighting for your individual moment in your sleep cycle, and then, of course, wakes you up at the right moment. So it's a very connected process. I don't have to make a decision. I don't have to connect it. I only have to tell it once around what time I need to wake up, and the rest is being done for me. This is a company called Digit.co. What they do is you give them your bank information, and they measure your spending habits, and they take micro amounts from your account and put it into saving. So you don't really notice that you're saving, but at the end of the month, you have that amount of money. You can set the amount of money that you're comfortable with them taking out, but they adjust automatically also to your spending habits. So if you spend more a month, they don't want to take out that much. It's a very simple concept. It takes a lot of decisions away. It doesn't really require a user interface that you go into on a regular basis. And the reason why all of these examples have a potential to work is because they really serve me as a user. They really are here to make my life easier and to streamline some of the decisions that I make on a daily basis. The impact of anticipatory design, I think, is very massive because I think it's going to happen. And once these anticipatory services are starting to show up everywhere, it will feel very tedious to live without them. So again, when I think about it as a designer, it means that the meaning of UX will shift. Up until now, our job was to empower users. We did this by providing tools for users to make multiple decisions, each step in the process. We thought empowerment means transparency. And we gave the user all these options and gave them more transparency and more choices to make on a regular basis. And with algorithmic intelligence and the data that we have and the computing power and intelligence that we are developing there, I think that we have to come back to serving users, and we have to define what that means. We have to utilize the machine learning to anticipate the user's needs, make smart suggestions, and eliminate decisions that can be eliminated. I think it also means for me as a user experience designer that everyone in the industry has to become data literate. If we think about data and algorithms being our next design tool, because we won't be designing the screens anymore, but we'll be designing services and brand behaviors in networks, it is very, very important for us to all be able to read the data and understand what we can do with it. And of course, that brings me to the question of who's going to own this intelligence. The run is open, the hunting season is open, so there's a couple of companies who are running to get as much of that data and as much of that intelligence around the consumers. And some of them already are, and the others are going to very soon go into the business of selling that data and selling the consumer information around that. So it's a little bit of a scary thought, but to sum up, I think that when we think about anticipatory design, data and algorithmic intelligence will be the foundation of efficient experiences, because where choices can be taken away, efficiency starts. We will design less screens and more intuitive services and brand behaviors in the network. And the last one is very important. What happens if we take all these choices away? What happens if we've perfected what the user wants? Well, the worst thing that we can do as designers is to take away serendipitous discovery. Life happens in the moments in between. Life happens when I make a mistake, when I didn't get that Uber because it wasn't available and I walk in the rain and it's a beautiful thing. So the biggest thing that Google is trying to figure out right now in their search algorithm is how to show you the things that we don't know whether you want them, that enable you to discover new things. And I think that serendipitous discovery will really become the next big challenge of data, because figuring out what you want is easy. Figuring out what you don't want is the harder part. And I do think, in the end, that defining technology at this point in time where we are really means defining humanity. And the hope that I have is that when technology becomes invisible, it will finally fulfill its purpose, which we started out in the beginning to do. The promise of automation is nothing but that, to give us more time, or more of the most valuable thing that we have, which is time. That's it.